Okay, we have a very exciting conversation in store for you. At the Circle, we are reinventing schools, after schools, and teaching institutions, all in the effort to ensure that children in low income contexts receive a reinvented learning and are empowered to thrive in their lives and also change their communities and even the country for the better. One of the ways we do that is something called the Circle Incubation, which is a 2 year program for entrepreneurs who wish to create their own schools and after schools and learning programs for children in their contexts, children who come from low income households, and they believe that that particular learning program can really offer them the learning that they deserve, which is high in quality and also innovative. The incubation is designed to help our entrepreneurs go through a rigorous process of ideating, designing, launching, and running their school or after school. We have two entrepreneurs from our incubation today who will be speaking to you from the third cohort, Harsh and Harihar. And we will be hearing from them in just a bit. Before I start off the session, I also just want to announce that we've opened the applications for our incubation program. We're looking for our fourth cohort, and we're very exciting to see all the ideas that most of you or probably all of you have on this particular call. If you visit our website, the application registration is the first thing that you will see. If you're interested to apply, take the first 5 minutes. No, not on this call, but you can take 5 minutes to go through a registration process that will help us speak to you one on one as well. And yeah, that's about it. Today we're just going to be talking about what does early stage fundraising look like in the school and after school space. We have Harsh and Harihar, as I mentioned, from the third cohort, and Chahat will be leading the conversation. Chahat leads government affairs, institutional partnerships, and ops at the Circle. He's one of the founding members as well. We're going to be hearing about Harsh and Harihar's journey, specifically around fundraising for the first 40 to 45 minutes, and then we open up for Q&A. So you'll also get the chance to just ask your questions to the entrepreneurs and our team members as well. Feel free to, for the rest of the time, you can use the chat box to put in any insights, any ideas, any comments, and questions that are coming up. So do use that as a space to express your thoughts. And over to you, Chahat.
Thank you so much, Amina. Yeah, very excited to be here. I think amongst Harsh and Harihar, both are two entrepreneurs that I really respect, two colleagues that I really admire, and whose work I think is going to act as lighthouses for the kind of work that they're doing and for future generation of entrepreneurs at the Circle as well. So really excited to have this chat today. Um, Before we get into the nuts and bolts of our conversation today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about why we picked this topic and why we feel it's important. We designed an entire incubation program that sort of helps entrepreneurs design, launch, and run their schools and after school programs, right? Like Amina mentioned. But what we understood is that there are some key topics that need to keep happening at various points in time for social entrepreneurs. Regulations happens to be one of them, right? And at different points of an entrepreneur's journey, the regulations keep evolving and they need to keep updating themselves to ensure that they're compliant. The program is of a school or an after school is one such other area, where as your needs evolve, as the stage of an entrepreneur also evolves, one needs to keep themselves upgraded. And hence, at the incubation, also at various points in time, we bring the program elements and keep upgrading entrepreneurs. And fundraising happens to be one such other wicked problem that entrepreneurs keep coming back to and do face a lot of challenge with to help them get started. And we've designed an entire module around this where we bring in experts from across the country to talk to entrepreneurs about this. But we felt like today is just to get your feet wet, right? How do you get started? How do you do that first few things? And we want to hear from entrepreneurs who've sort of done this. And in my experience of having worked at the Circle since the very beginning, what have been our learnings at the circle as well. So, just to have that free flowing conversation, I would encourage everybody in the audience to keep posting questions, because I know Harsh and Harihar can add a lot of value through their experience. Um, yeah, so really excited for that and looking forward to that and a lot more. I'm going to quickly introduce our two friends here, Harsh and Harihar, who I'm very excited to have a chat with today. So, Harihar is, apart from being an exceptional educator, is democratizing access to quality technology and design through Barabari Collective in Hyderabad. His main goal is to equip students with 21st century skills to build sustainable livelihoods. And with years of experience in digital literacy, he specializes in contextual learning for diverse communities. We're very, very excited for the stuff that's happening at Barabari Collective. For those in the audience, I would request that you go and check their website out. It's got some really fun, very, very cool stuff. Very inspired by their work and looking forward to share that and a lot more today in the conversation. So welcome, Harihar, in today's conversation. I also want to invite our other panelist, Harsh. Harsh leads Kalam, an innovative learning space in Punjab that empowers out of school children through personalized, creative, and hands on education. Harsh is very, very passionate about social change. He blends storytelling, theater, and skill building to reimagine learning for those communities that have it the least. And I've visited Harsh's site. I know the powerful stuff that Harsh is doing. I would encourage everybody in the audience, whenever you have a chance, go visit Harsh, see the work that he's doing. And in the meantime, follow him on social media to know a lot more. With that, welcome Harsh, welcome Harihar. Uh, yeah, I would love for both Harsh and Harihar to now move to the other segment of our conversation today, to just present a little bit of your work to ensure that the audience gets a little familiar. Yeah, over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Chahat, and the entire circle team for this introduction. I'll just start off things. Like Chahat was talking about, I'm Harihar, I'm the founder of the Barabari Collective. And what I'll do across my part is I'll give you a brief insight into what kind of work we are doing and exactly what kind of freelance fundraising journey I've gone through. To just set context, I'm not from this education, social impact space traditionally. I've been a tech person last 5 years. It's been quite a journey for me at every step, learning about fundraising, about social impact. So I guess it could add a lot of value to younger people who are getting into this sector or trying out something of their own. I'll just share my screen to just start off things. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Perfect. So, like Chahat was mentioning, Barabari Collective works in the domain of ownership. To give you in short, from TCS to Zepto, जो भी इंडिया में बड़ी बड़ी टेक कंपनीज बनती हैं, their owners are primarily people from the same social group, same gender group, same urban segment. And traditionally, हमारे skilling patterns are just mapping people to entry level jobs. Internally, जो ownership है, जो धनराशि है, this is not getting democratized among Indians universally. There's a big cap of people who are having high income jobs, and that income inequality keeps growing time and again. And what we observed is कि university systems, which were initially meant to become instruments of economic mobility, अभी वो नहीं बन पा रहे हैं. They're just becoming industries and funnels to just get people into entry level jobs, get them their first job, and then not really caring about कि वो कहाँ जा रहे हैं overall life में, and where really as economy we are heading. And we really felt as a educational organization, we can change that. We can change how universities are looked at. We can really make universities instruments of economic mobility. So वहीं से हमारी शुरुआत हुई थी. And what we saw is the key problems that we wanted to address in the university system. कि क्या can we work towards building a curriculum which is industry relevant? Can we build on industry partners directly in the universities में आएंगे and get that education as per industry standards? Can we get it more personalized, contextualized to that learning environment? And can we build out an ecosystem within a university where जो भी education levels are happening in an IIT, in NITs, can we get that to government universities universally across the state? And with that in mind, we started working with the Telangana government. So what we right now do is, current our program is a 3 semester long intervention where we work with the Telangana government in degree universities which are run under the commissionerate of the Telangana government. So there were 150 universities under Telangana government in which we work in 3 universities right now. The whole idea is, can we work with them across 3 semesters, take our advanced skilling program to these kids, and ensure after those 3 months, can they really have the same placement outcomes as any IIT, as any NIT, etc. And our core proposition is freelancing. So what we try to do is We see modern day work is going to be around getting the job done more than your degrees, more than what brand value you get into. Full-time jobs are going to reduce with time. So we really leverage freelancing को हम कैसे democratize कर सकते हैं. That's how we get income creation done. How we see the future of Barabari is काफी varied. We don't know all the answers. We're also figuring out what skilling means at scale, quality skilling. And that's why our essential idea is to build out a tech collective. So what that means is क्या हम लोग एक ऐसी organization बना सकते हैं जो tech products and services बनाए which are owned by the community. Imagine what Amul did for milk or what NGOs do for tailwind. Can we do that for tech? Is the overall vision where we are heading towards. The people on the panel and the audience can just scan this QR code to see what kind of products our students are building out right now. And the future of Barabari will hinge on these three verticals. Us building our own freelance ecosystem as a competition to for-profit networks like Upper, us building a fellowship model, and us building our own in-house tech products from our students. That's how Barabari is structured and the future of Barabari. Getting into fundraising, like I was saying, I'm pretty new to this space, fundraising especially. I've never asked for funds for getting my work done to someone else without paying them or getting them some profit. It was a new idea for me starting. And my initial conversations around fundraising made me realize it's almost like eating an Indian thali. You're going to have a lot of options. And the idea is to understand what you really like. And to understand what you really like, you have to try everything. You have to understand what you like, what you dislike, and eventually also understand what mixes well together. Because often Indian thalis, you might not like the dal, you might not like a roti individually, but together they might make sense to you. So to identify आपको क्या पसंद है, आपको क्या नहीं पसंद है, क्या mix होता है. So my initial journey around fundraising was two broad verticals. Can we apply for prizes where we get direct funding from established organizations like Circle? And can we get into incubations where grants are given to us? Our primary thing that we understood about myself as an organization is we like to build credibility more than building corpus. So we're not in a hurry to build out a money pool per se. We're in a hurry to build out that credibility, and that came with these prizes, etc. We also realized for me as an organization, evocative pitches are very rare. I'm not really good at evoking emotions through stories, but I'm good at data. And tech is primarily through data. So we realized data is our going to be primary instrument of getting funds. And finally, we take very less shots in fundraising. Like we don't go all in out talking to a lot of people. We take smaller bets, but these bets which have a income level of large segment that we can really leverage long term. And what I realized I don't fit well with in my initial days is retail fundraising. I don't get it. I don't know exactly how do you reach thousands of people and get small amounts from them. So we realized what really works for me essentially in my initial journey. Uh, what happened eventually that what we do right now is we have put our focus on HNIs. Like how do we cultivate relations with high net worth individuals over long periods of time? And that converts into large sums of money instead of smaller pockets of money. Second has been collaborative funding. So what that means is I as organization Barabari is 20 months old. We don't have many documentations done by legal perspective, but there are many large scale NGOs who are doing the similar work, who are interested in your work and have channels of getting money in. So how do you do funding with them in mind by getting their brand image there, by getting a collaborative program done? So these have been two of our focus areas. And what I really realized from here is I love experiments. I love ambitious projects which can go wrong. And that's where we can do fundraising very well. I understand that we like talking to people, like building a strong human connection. That's where these HNI connections and collaborative fundraising make sense. And we love to over communicate. Every small thing that we do, where we don't do, where we feel, we got into the habit of over communicating that. And again, what I realize I don't find it that tasty is pitching scale. I'm not very comfortable with pitching like large numbers as traditional skilling programs do. So it's been a tricky space for me to pitch scale right now. And finally, what it looks like going forward is we want to double down on HNI connections. We want to double down on collaborating fundraising. And one more small thing is that we are looking as organization, what does it mean for us to be self-sustainable? We want to really focus on getting our operations sorted through Barabari ka income itself. And this last takeaway would be this space has a lot of money. And please go in with a lot of unorthodox pitches. Like people are looking for newer ideas. People know traditional ideas don't work. And like I think Circle in itself is a coffee innovative idea to get funded. So I think that's a good testament to see how unorthodox pitches work. That's how my journey with Barabari and fundraising has been. Yeah, that is about my time. I'll pass it on to Harsh and we can just ideate further.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that, Harihar. I think that was great. I love the analogies. We'll move on to Harsh, but I just want to take maybe a 30-second pause and see if anyone has any burning questions right now or anything that you'd want to put on the chat. Oh, Feel free to just like put in any ideas that are coming up, anything that Harriet can quickly answer, and then we'll of course have time with him towards the end as well. Okay. All right. I think people are looking forward to listening to Harsh now. So we will move on to Harsh. Thank you, Harihar.
Yeah. Thanks, Harihar, and absolutely cool stuff that you are doing. I'll just quickly share my screen. Yeah. Hi everyone, I'm Harsh and I'm the founder of this organization called Harihar Kalam, and we are based out of Punjab, specific in Patiala, and we work with the children who are out of schools. Um, Well, I think we are very familiar with all these spaces. Some garbage grounds, a lot of market areas, tea stalls, bus stops, and street lights. I think there is something very common in these four pictures. It's our children. Our children in this tech-enabled AI world, the children on streets. And a very painful fact is that in India, the number of children on streets are even more than the entire population of a country like Bhutan. So, my interaction with a lot of children made me realize that how a name Chotu is prevalent across the country, which we have given to all these kids. And all these interactions made me realize that somehow our school spaces are not safe spaces. A lot of children shared to me that we don't want to go to school because we have been discriminated on our clothes and all. So that's where the journey began to understand actually the pains and needs of the children on streets. And more than financial and the household responsibilities, the learning spaces are not safe spaces. And that's where we stepped in and we started directly on ground. And now we are building two kind of models. One is we are building a school through circle incubation, specifically designed towards the needs of the children on streets. And the second model that we are also having is to work directly on streets and in slums where children are still hesitant to go to schools. The vision is very simple that we believe that no children deserves to be on streets, and we want our children to have a space where they can think critically, they can express authentically, they can explore endlessly, and their voices are being heard. Our journey with the initial fundraising was for me again just like Harihar. I am coming from an engineering background, does not have any background in education or in impact space, and I have no idea about CSR, institutional grants, or even any incubation. So for me, the retail fundraising came very naturally. So when I left my corporate, I just messaged my very close friends that I have left my job and I need some money to work with the kids. And that's how the journey of retail fundraising started. Just in a month, like 30 of my friends started sharing 1,000 rupees a month on an average. And there I get into, and the evolution happened that the city that we are in, we invited people to come and see what our work is. And then the people started connecting. For me, the idea was we do not need funders, we need a community. We need a community to work on the cause, to work on the issue. And that's how we build this. And we call people of Patiala, my college, my school batchmates, and all to come and be a part of the initiative. And that's how, in the first year itself, we raised around 14 lakhs. And now we are raising more than 25 lakhs only through retail fundraising. And now with the circle, we are diversifying our resources, and I think this is the time now we are going into the CSR and institutional grant with the help of Circle. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Harsh and Harihar. Yeah, very, very insightful to sort of listen in and understand a little bit of your journey. And I think you all were able to quickly recap the past many years and about the struggles that you all faced quite quickly. So thanks so much for that. I want us to take a step back actually, and just go back to day zero, you know. Um, And I, of course, understand, and you all spoke about how it all started for you all. But if you all can also paint that picture a little bit around what were the specific mindsets that you all had when you all were just starting out at the beginning of your journey, and contrast that to where you're at right now. You know, where were you? What were you thinking? What were some things that were running through your mind? And when you look at it right now, what are some things that you can contrast that with? So, what are some key mindsets that you can just highlight? Anyone, please feel free to just jump in.
Yeah, I think two things coming to my mind, Chahat. One is in the initial journey, we were meeting people, but we are not asking for help, for money. And I think later that we realized that people need that specificity, what exactly we want. And once we started asking that we need money, the money was pouring in. And I think second was also that even if a person says no, it's a no for that day, doesn't mean that it is no forever. So I think that mindset we have, it has shifted for me, and which has always keep me in communication with all these donors, even if they have said no. And it has happened to me. A lot of people who have said no in the first or in the second meetings, they have started donating late at a later stage.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Harsh.
Just to add on to that, like Kaki, same thing what Abhay was saying, and more than that, one more thing that has played well with me is that there was a lot of impatience about how you cultivate a relationship. I think initially we jumped to the point of where there's a monetary transaction happening very quickly, and for us that impatience played a big role in not getting initial funding. Later, when we shifted our gears with the assumption that there's money in the sector, we just need to give it time. That really helped us understand the सामने वाला person का रुझान क्या है, कि what kind of programs they want to fund, and modulating a relation according to that. And one more thing was around data collection and documentation. We didn't realize how important it would be for us to document every single part of our work, every single compliance part, every single intervention that we do. Because when people come to us talking about money, they want to know exactly with the past में क्या हुआ है, and they want specific details of क्या क्या interventions वगैरह किए हैं. And now it's become a daily practice. More than whenever a funder asks, that time we don't start creating it. We already have that. So funders really appreciate of the honesty that we have. So these two things about patience and data collection has been really changed across time for us.
Yeah. I also want to quickly, I think both great points and very, very aligned to that. I also want to just quickly highlight a few things that I've also been noticing that early stage entrepreneurs also have that. So one is that at the very beginning, I feel that there is a fear of asking. And asking इस वजह से कि मैंने कभी मांगा नहीं है पैसे किसी से. But I think just fundamentally understanding, and when you contrast that to a seasoned entrepreneur, you see that they realize that they're not asking for themselves. It's more cause oriented versus person specific. And hence, if we're able to separate the art and the artist here, it sort of helps the cause a lot more, because you realize that if you don't make the ask, the cause, the mission suffers a lot more. I think that that's one thing. Second was that I've noticed a lot is the fear whether I'm ready or not. So whether I'm ready or not to ask, say, my peers, my friends, my colleagues, is it half baked to approach them right now? I love that, Harsh, you spoke about reaching out to the top 30 people in your network. And I feel like having that courage sort of has helped you, propelled you today to be in a place where you're able to ask, say, a much larger audience, because you asked, and that confidence that you showed in yourself. And that brings me to the third point, is just the difference is the faith that you have in where this will be versus where you're at currently. If you're able to see it very, very clearly, a lot of other people sort of want to see that in your eyes. And I feel like that's one big mindset shift that I had to personally do when I got into the sector. I also support the circle through fundraising efforts, and also help early stage entrepreneurs. So that's one of the things that I also had to sort of change and get over. Yeah. I also want to talk a little bit about what was your first experience like? Like, when you were fundraising, what was that first call like? Or maybe what was the first few like? If you can just highlight that, what was the prep that you had? What did you have ready? Did you have collaterals at that point? Where were you at in your journey and what was that experience for you?
I could go because it's a very fresh memory for me. So one of my first pitching things was with respect to a large grant making organization. We did find alignment with our work and we're trying to understand कि कैसे हम pitch कर सकते हैं. And what I found in the initial days when I was pitching to them, I was so much focused on my program specifically. I did not learn about them at all. Like I did not care to think about कि why do they find alignment, उनके कौन से सब segment वाले program में they finding alignment, or even the representative which is coming from there and who is that person specifically, what is their background. So it's almost like you're going for a introductory date with a person and you're just focusing on putting your best qualities, but you're not done homework on who the other person is, उसको क्या पसंद है. So I think a lot of my initial memories are around just focusing on myself, and that how that changes right now when we go with for fundraising. Almost our prep time on ourselves is very minimal. Our prep time is what does the Samnala person really wants to hear, or what do they like, and what kind of collaboration we can find. So I think that's been a key shift, and that's how our initial part was focusing on myself more than the other. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Harsh?
Yeah, I think +1 to Harihar's point. Even the keywords matter what the other person want to hear. But for me, it was a very different also because I haven't made any collaterals, neither do any picture. I just don't know even these terms. So I think I just used WhatsApp message to pitch it to the people. But what I realized was in the initial days when I was reaching out to my friends, I did not ask anything. I just said I need help, but what help, I haven't specified that. So after a time I realized I need to ask the specific help as well. So some of them people actually when asked like reverted me back, yes Harsh, batao how can we help you. I just don't know, how to come to the point ki we need resources, we need money. But yeah, later we realized that this needs to be done, and then we started asking money that we need to have a sustainable source of this. So that's what shifted for me as well.
Right. And if you all can also talk a little bit about what what was that one or two takeaways that you're still implementing sort of from those first few experiences? Um, yeah, and then I can also talk a little bit about what my first funding experience was like. Yeah.
I think two things that we consistently follow and keep it a practice, even if I'm not pitching, if someone else is pitching from my team, is to be honest about the risk and scope of the program. Because I feel a lot of funders are actively hearing pitches where it's a rosy picture about this is going to happen, the India is going to change with my one program. And what they really appreciate is limited scope of improvement, that you focus on small things. You don't talk about that you change the world, but also acknowledgement that these things can go wrong. This is where the failure can happen. And it really comes out as you're more prepared in a pitch. So I think this documenting possibility of failure is very important for us. Other thing is like really being consistent. So like I think what Harshbhai was saying about how first no is not really a no. People really appreciate when you just keep going back to them time and again. I've heard people who would not even talk to me for like the first few months, but if I keep sending my monthly report to them month on month, fifth month they're talking to me. They're coming to me because they really need to want to spend. They are with the intention to spend. So this mix of being consistent and being really authentic has really helped me in terms of our pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, Chahat, one thing that I realize is that fundraising is more about relationship with the people, and it's always the human at the other end. So the program, the cause, that's all I think. Okay, everyone is doing a good program, a lot of people are doing some amazing program, but it's the relationship that we cultivate. So that relationship has really helped us a lot in the initial days, and what we have kept is we have kept those momentum, talking personally with people, inviting people to visit us and be a part of it, and allowing also spaces where people can participate in the programs through different initiatives, by mentoring or by directly working with kids. So that relationship has actually helped us a lot. And second thing I believe is that when I reflect back why people started supporting in the city where I do not even belong to, was also the kind of conviction and the trust they had seen in me. They always like it's like always that yes, you are doing. It's more about that you are doing. It's not about what is right or is it coming out to be very impactful or not. that is still, there are going to be mistakes in the journey, but there's a conviction in that, yes, you are doing something for the kids.
Yeah, all great, very, very valid points. I think the few key takeaways that I'm getting out of this is I really liked Harsh's point regarding you're the product for a while. You know, for the first few months or year, people are going to show faith in what you can do versus what the work is currently at. And I felt like that is really, really relevant. I really like, Harihar, your point regarding just consistency and persistence. Just being there, showing up and doing this time and again. And once you're able to do that enough times, you'll know that this is actually a relay race and not a sprint. And the moment you sort of realize that you're able to get past that barrier of a no, which is so important, right? And I also really liked, Harihar, your point regarding the specificity of risk and also understanding that while my vision is to change India, for now, this is what I will be doing. And I want to do this really well so that I'm able to have that larger impact. And I sort of feel very aligned to that statement there. I also want to quickly share what my first fundraising experience was, and I went into a meeting with this HNI, and I was connected by one of my friends, and I went in to pitch the circle. But I was so focused on remembering what the circle does and the scope and sequence of my pitch that I forgot to pause. And it's a very small, tangible thing, but I realized after 20 minutes that I'm the only one speaking. And one of the things that we sort of do while fundraising is we don't humanize the experience for the other person. At the end of the day, it's two people talking about one thing. One person probably has money, the other person needs it for something that is not theirs. And it's a very simple relationship. And if you're able to understand that and have a simple conversation regarding the work that you do instead of focusing on the script, I think that one is able to get past that. And one big learning for me then was, how do I have enough and frequent low stakes meetings such that I'm able to get the fear out of the way? So I would sort of catch up with friends and do the whole pitch when people would ask me what you do. And I would get hold of any and every person that I felt would be, say, a partnership, or even while somebody who's interested at the incubation, I would do my entire pitch just to ensure that I'm comfortable in my skin and know it enough that it doesn't come across as a learned attempt. And I feel like once you've done it enough times and you get the failure out of the way, then you know that it's just a conversation. But yeah, some gold nuggets there, Harihar and Harsh, and I really liked the points that you all mentioned. I also want to touch upon the different kinds of fundraising. And you all are both folks who are very well versed with the network and the ecosystem. You'll have other friends at the circle and outside who are social entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about the other kind of fundraising that intrigues you, and a little bit to that and on why that intrigues you? So, of course, I know, Harsh, you do retail fundraising very well. Harihar, I know that you have a revenue and a grant both focused arena for fundraising. But outside of that ecosystem, what are those avenues that intrigue you, and talk a little bit to why that does and shed a little light on that? Go for it.
Yeah, I think for me, one area that we are now actively exploring is HNI's grant, which are high net worth individuals, and as well as the
Yes.
grants from the foundations. And majorly the reason for us to go there was that all these kind of grants are not that much restricted as compared to the CSR, according to my perspective. So that is one area that's why we are more inclined towards, and we recently got also the funding, started funding from Azim Premji Foundation as well. So that is one thing. And yeah, similarly the HNI. So we have been able to crack one HNI this year. So that's how. So yeah, these two areas, it's something we are actively exploring.
Got it.
Um, Again, like you were saying, the traditional forms of fundraising for us have been traditionally grants and HNIs. So beyond that, just I'll elaborate more on the self-sustainability part, what we are thinking right now. I often feel non-profits do a lot of capacity building in terms of the kind of curriculums they build out, the kind of modules they build, and we often don't think of monetizing that. I was talking to one large non-profit which has multiple spaces across India, and now what they're doing is their playbook they're selling for almost 5 lakh rupees for anyone else to set up. And I feel a lot of our work going forward would be okay. Barabari is doing this advanced skilling program. We're having this process. We're having this LMS. How do we monetize that for the segments who can afford it? So a lot of our journey is going to be that. And a primary reason for that is once we work in the segment of ownership and we want to directly challenge how for profits work, it's not sustainable for us to depend on the same non-profits for their funding, right? That really is not a great way to move forward if we want to challenge the status quo. So for us, that internal sustainability is very important. And I want to touch base on the collaborative fundraising because I feel a lot of non-profits miss that out. Often our work is काफी overlapping. Like you'll find multiple people working on tech upskilling with the same vision, the same value system. And often it's easier to do fundraising ek saath. So what I mean by that is your primary program, you try to fit it out how with a bigger non-profit that really can work together. So they have a skilling program with say females from certain demographic, and how do your program by changing certain things can be contextualized to their own working. And if you have value alignment there, I think that's a very good way to go forward because then you're not getting stuck in like documentation logistics, which the other party may have solved already. So I feel like our exploration is going to be let's do indirect funding through collaborations and build out that muscle key what we can sell to the market per se. Yeah, mostly that is.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm just going to summarize a few key points because I felt like there were some great learnings there for myself. Is that HNIs are great for unrestricted grants. Uh, Grant making organizations are great for a specific purpose. NGOs have budgets. If you can partner with them to sort of leverage that, it's great. What IP generation and byproducts of your work can you sort of create as revenue streams? And retail fundraising is a fantastic opportunity that is waiting for everybody for to be tapped into because everybody knows somebody. And that somebody may not be an ultra HNI to contribute. But like Harsh mentioned beautifully, that you can get started with 1,000 rupee contribution. But if you have enough people giving you small amounts or a small number of people giving you enough amounts, I think both ways you're able to sort of balance that out. And yeah, I really like that. I think the one thing that entrepreneurs oftentimes miss out on is creating that thali that Harihar you mentioned. That's been one of my big learnings that एक सब्जी अच्छा लगा, people keep doubling down on that instead of trying to find the value of creating diversification. And we talk a lot about diversification in finance and in portfolios, but I think sources of funding, such a critical place for entrepreneurs to sort of leverage diversification there, purely because a lot of times one side of an organization might be doing well, but for whatever reason, you want to strengthen the organization and sort of diversify. So, yeah, that's just one thing that I was thinking about when both of you all were talking. Um, I'm going to bring us to the next segment of the conversation, which I feel is relevant to our conversation here. And of course, both of you all are part of the circle incubation. And I'd love for you all to talk a little bit about unstructured, I'll go figure it out fundraising versus being in a network of entrepreneurs, having systems in place, a dedicated space to learn and equip. Can you contrast a little bit of that and talk a little bit to your experience at the circle or otherwise also?
I can go start off with that because it's been really transformative for me how I look at organization building via post this incubation or even during this incubation. And I think a large temptation in all of us is because we're doing something out of passion is to drive by chaos, right? Every day you're liking what you're doing, there's a lot of dopamine hit coming, and we kafi don't align ourselves to building out those Excel sheets and those systems in place. So that primarily happened for me with in the experience of 12 other entrepreneurs and also the circle team is that I have heavy documentation systems to track every small outcome out. So what that means is, say, if today I reached out to an HNI on mail at some level frequency, am I reaching out to them every week or not? That has to be documented out there. And what it builds is, it's not dependent on your, now the organization is not dependent on you per se. Tomorrow, if you bring in an intern as well, they know how to follow up. They know how to follow up with what person. You can keep notes on what a person likes to do, what doesn't like to do. So I think the documentation part, system building part, has been instrumental in getting this thing done. And the difference has been just efficiency. So, for example, with the same resources, with the same subsegment, in the last few months, जितना हम लोगों ने conversion किया in terms of like funder talking to getting those donors has almost been like 100% uptick. I remember pre-incubation when I used to work out like this myself and in a chaotic manner, I would talk to 20, 30 people and that follow-up mechanism was not strong enough to really convert anyone. Now we talk to 5 people, but we know cause with the circle we build out at muscle की document क्या करना है, कैसे भेजना है, कैसे बात करना है. All those 5 will reach to the table की जहाँ पे there's talk of money happening. So that's been primarily the change in efficiency, and often non-profits are in different to how for-profits work. They don't optimize for efficiency a lot. So that's been a key learning for us.
I think for me, the major thing I feel that when it got structured, it brings a lot of clarity on even understanding what my surrounding ecosystem is. I still remember Chahat when we were in Bangalore and we were researching about that thing, how to research a donor and CSR donors. I just came out with this feeling confidently that there are a lot of donors in nearby. It's just that I have to, go about it. So I think those kind of structured things on how to even research, how to even pitch. And in the next module itself, when we were able to share our own story, and it was a version which I don't think I can have ever imagined of. And we pitched that for the first time in front of people, all the networking events that we were part of. I think it gave us the confidence on our own story as well. We were listening our own story from different perspectives. So I think those things gave me clarity, conviction, ability to understand the ecosystem even better, and to make these collaterals and research part much better.
Yeah. Thanks so much. No, very humbled when you all say that you all found value in the work that we're collectively doing and in the mission that we're collectively part of. I can quickly also voice in the differences that I, of course, see from the vantage point that I have is that fundraising is actually not just the meeting, which a lot of times is understood. It's actually, say, a mile away from that when you're sitting at home and sort of understanding who should I be speaking to, what should I be speaking about, how much time should I be spending, am I the right person in my organization to do this, um, what are some fears and mental blockages I need to get over to try and catch that pattern as it emerges and then approaching it. So there's a pre-funding, there is a during funding, so during the funding, I might require collaterals, I might require a narrative, I might require compelling story. I should have practiced this enough. I require some feedback. I should know how to enter and exit that space in terms of gratitude. These are just some norms that you get when you practice a lot and when you get feedback. And then there is a post. What are some structures and processes that you can sort of slide into your own work systems just so that you're doing better each day and performing at a higher efficiency. So, one could be like Harihar, you mentioned documentation and just doing that. And it could also very well be just consistency and having to reach a milestone that you need to achieve or a matching grant that you need to get in order to be eligible for something. I think those are just few things that I'm able to see that might add value. And it's of course different for different people. Um, each because the incubation is sort of catering to a large variety of entrepreneurs who come in from very diverse backgrounds and diverse set of skills at different points in their journey. And the two entrepreneurs we have today are also at different points in their journey. I think what I've noticed is that different things work for different people. For someone, they might find 65, 70% value in just getting the mindset correct. If they correct that, they themselves are very empowered to sort of go and kill. And for some people, it's just a process, one process working for them and sort of catapulting them ahead. So I think that's that's those are few things that I can think about right now. Um, yeah. One thing that I wanted to also touch upon when you were talking about the incubation में ये कराया है, you'll also build out a fundraising strategy. But if we keep that strategy aside, as an organization right now, when you're forward looking, can you talk a little bit about what is your fundraising strategy for the next 12 months? Or how do you plan to approach it for your organization? And what are some shifts as you're seeing it? Because I also understand that different members in the audience might be at different stages as well. So if you can also be a little forward looking, आगे क्या करेंगे? What are your strategies and how are you approaching it? It'll be really helpful.
Yeah, so I think for me, one is that because retail fundraising has been very useful for us, so we are going to strengthen it further. And the one of the thing I think for in the strategy was also that fundraising is mostly largely actually the funder led. But this is now I'm breaking that norm now after getting the support to understand, where we can pitch in the other people as well in the team. So I'm slowly moving out from retail fundraising, and now I'm more focusing towards HNIs as well as the ground foundation. So as I said earlier, we recently had a breakthrough with Azim Premji Foundation. And so our goal is now to find three more HNIs and also start preparing ourselves for CSR readiness. So that's how our next 12 months looks like, to focus on HNI and to start preparing for the CSRs.
And can I ask you a clarifying question here, Harsh?
Yeah.
You spoke about finding more HNIs. Can you also talk a little bit about कैसे ढूंढोगे?
Yeah. So I think when we were doing the research part, one thing is that when we were like even going through even our existing donor base on all the retail, like we had almost more than 300 people who have donated last year. So while we were seeing their profiles, we got to know that they are connected with a lot of people. So one thing was that connecting through their network and going into those parts. Second is to uh, be vocal about at different conferences, different places, and show our work and what we are actually doing at different spaces. So be like using LinkedIn and using different forums to be able to put out that. So I think these are the two major strategies, and some of the again, I think a lot of people we have met through Circle, even the mentors that we have got, we are double it down to also using their network to help them in meeting those kind of people who are aligned to what we are building.
Great. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you, Harvey. Just to share further on what we're thinking in the future, right? So we have those two experimental things that we have going on in our organization. One is the fellowship we want to build out, and one is these AI tech products we want to build out for Barabari. So what we're doing right now is we feel HNI network, the amount of time it takes to convert a new HNI, it's much more easy to take an existing HNI and leverage their network out. So we have, say, about 4 or 5 HNIs already working with us. So our next 12 months are going to be working with these HNIs itself and seeing how our new programs make sense to them. A lot of investment would be less on getting more HNIs and more on building on these existing HNIs or getting some network connect within those HNI sub-segments itself. One more shift that we are going to do is we are going to try to make sure our old internal revenue model plus HNI thing would be around 60% of our thing. And when we come down to CSR or retail or any other grant, that reduces to 40%. Eventually, it comes down to 20-30% because we want to make sure that our day-to-day functioning as a non-profit is not affected by any of the external people that we get into. HNI is high trust, and so is our own services. Last thing I think about Harsh was talking about how he wants to move away from fundraising and how bringing more people. One thing that I noticed in one of the sessions in Circle itself, how Teach for India often gets their student alumni for fundraising meetings to show exactly what an outcome looks like. And for me, that's been a very big game changer because a lot of these tech fundraising outcomes, we bring our student alumni there. So all tech questions we tell them to take on, and as that we don't know anything, and that really builds trust. So what we're going to do is there'll be one singular Barabari face representing, but we always want a student to be there in the fundraising part for the any fundraiser, be from CSR to HR, to directly see what they're investing in. And lastly, we also want to see more trust building. I often feel like a lot of people don't know where their money goes really. Like be it retail, be it CSR, you can document stuff out, but being an intimate connection that, okay, I put in 20,000, I exactly know where the 20,000 went. So you're also focusing on how do you build that accountability that a person knows clearly where the money is going. This is going to be our focus on going future next 12 months.
Yeah, a lot of things lined up for you all in the next few months, and I'm sort of looking forward to witnessing that and a lot more. Very excited for all of that. I've been nudged for us to move to the Q&A because there are a bunch of questions that have now piled up. Yeah, let's get started. Yeah, I can quickly ask the questions. Amina, would you prefer that you ask the questions?
Yeah, we can tag team. I'm just going to bump up a few questions that came earlier. I think the first one came from Nimisha. If you're still here, Nimisha, help you can elaborate on the question. But how do we identify HNIs outside of our network to approach? What's the best way to approach them? I think Harihar, you kind of touched upon building on an existing network, but if three of you have anything to add there, and Nimisha, if there is anything you'd want to elaborate, feel free. Go ahead.
Um, Initially, is there any more context you want to add to the question?
Yes, of course. So I was wondering, assuming we don't know or we don't have any HNIs in our network, how would we start this process of even leveraging, networks within the HNIs that we do reach out to? And yeah, we'd just love to hear your thoughts, everyone's thoughts on how we can go about this.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer more city specific. You can tell me if there's a rural context to it. But if you go to cities, right, what I've noticed is there are a lot of open events that become a really great access point for HNIs if you have no initial connection. I can give you an example. I got connected to Telangana ka CSR head when I went for a quizzing event. And you can mark out these events that older folks who have money would be engaging in. So it could even in Bombay, what I've known is there are these NGO meetups where all NGO founders come together, and there you find a lot of overlap between HNIs and high stakes individuals, etc. So I feel these open events are a great point where you just go and put up initial established a connection. Other is honestly just cold calling and cold mailing. If you go through non-profits that work in the same domain as yours, go through their board. And if say you don't want to directly reach out to the board members, you'll find some subsidiary connections. So if you say some foundation supports some NGO, you see those foundation ke heads and you can see related people who might not be the senior most people and just shoot direct mails to them that you are already supporting this domain. What new value do you add? So I guess if you have no connection, primary thing would be these open source events and other just cold mailing. One more thing that really works is like if you do aspire to get into like incubators like Circle, that's a great way to get into HNI connection. But I also feel like if you don't get into these incubators, at least being in touch with Circle kind of organizations can also enable you to make those connections. So I think that network part will trickle down eventually. So these are my few areas we could focus on. If you have a follow-up, I can take that on. But mostly this.
That's it. That was really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think just wanting to add one more point is that as you know, a lot of time we have mentioned that other person is also human. Find the common ground we can have with people. For me, what work is the geography. People are very passionate and emotional about the geographical part. Maybe, for me, like it works for even Punjab or Patiala, and maybe the college part. Like for me, a lot of Thaparians. I've come from Thapar University, so a lot of Thaparians have helped me to start boosting into their networks, and through that it worked.
Yeah. I really like that. I follow one principle that outside a meeting, the world is a very large place, and hence there are a lot of people. Inside the meeting, the world is a very small place. You have some common ground with everybody. So if you're able to sort of see that value in them and see that and establish that, I think it does wonders. Okay. Abina,
Great.
next.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I'm just gonna go over the list. Okay. I think we've kind of answered a bunch of questions around what we need to do from our end and kind of understanding the donor's perspective. I think someone had asked, why would an HNI prefer to fund a nonprofit versus an investment in a social impact, which is focusing on for-profit work where there is direct return on investment?
Yeah, I can get us started.
Sure.
So first things first, there are tax write-offs that and just basically aligned ki if you are a young organization that has 12E in ATG, that HNI will get a tax write-off the moment they donate to your cause. So there's one of that. Second is that you'd be surprised by how many well-meaning people there are on earth who would rather contribute to a social cause than to a business that gives profit, because by virtue of them being an HNI, they are already having multiple avenues where they are getting a lot of return on their money. I think if you're able to provide return on philanthropic capital through impact, that is what they're looking at. So if it's about searching the right kind of people here, because fundamentally there are a lot of people who would give, but I'd love for Harsh and Harihar to jump in if I've missed anything.
Actually, Chahat, very to the point. I was also about to say that let's believe the world is a beautiful place, and a lot of beautiful people are there. I still remember we got around like 250 people when we don't have even ATG. They didn't even ask for tax rebates. So that's was for me also the power to believe in people's thing. And a lot of people, I remember, they have shared this with us that because we are unable to do that, we are not being able to be on the ground, we want to support you with money. And so I think that's a belief that I hold really strong, that people are there and they just need a conviction and a strong way to support it.
I add one small point to यहाँ पे, and I think it's a very well framed question कि why won't they go for profit which are social impact driven? I feel like a lot of people who get into HNI, as per my interaction with them, is they also want to experience a new space. They want to experience community building also. And I feel a lot of them engage with nonprofits because they get to experience what the individual stakeholder feels like, and they get to immerse themselves in that environment. And how that happens in for profit is very known to them. It's not exciting to them anymore. But they would have seen edtech companies come and go. They know how students' metrics are tracked on dashboards, but they don't really get to feel what it feels like कि आप एक rural context में जाके immerse करे खुद को. And I've often had interactions with HNIs who just want to come on ground. They just want to come and experience the classroom. So I feel they are also looking for something. It's not that they're just giving. They're also looking for that experience bit. So that's something that makes them make a decision of like, I'll go for a non-profit as opposed to a social impact for profit.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I just want to pause before we take the next set of questions for a quick poll that is coming up on your screen right now. Just quick survey questions for us. If you could take 30 seconds, fill it out, and then we'll resume. Awesome. I think we are halfway there. Just waiting for a few more people. Let's go. I think we have some exciting questions waiting. Okay.
Just waiting for a few more people to fill in.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, just 20 more. We can do this. Adil, maybe you'd want to?
5 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Adil, if you don't mind, as we wait, maybe put your question in the chat and you can add more context so that we jump right into the response for your question.
All right, friends, last 10 seconds and I'll close it. Awesome, thank you.
Right. All right, so Hani has spoken. We can move on. Great. All right, Adil, if you're in the middle of it, if you want to come off of mute, we're ready for you.
I was just typing in the chat. If you want, I can just ask right away.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the thing is that I'm very new and like very newbie to this funding domain. So ours is like 2 3 hours, like 2 3 years old organization, and we recently got CSR 1 and everything. So the thing was like very stuck. Like few days before, through our network, there was this CSR fellow. We thought that we would get something. So like someone from our team had contacted them, and we had the funding wala chat, and then someone from the corporate journey, they told me, okay, we will get you make this CSR funding, but they want some cut from that thing. So how often does this issue get arise? Because I just believe in from the ethical approach that it shall not be there. So like how to handle such situation?
Go for it, Harsh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from my perspective, it's a complete no, a big no. I remember a year back, I was offered this similar thing, around 5 CR thing, which was a great amount. I think these are great attractions, but really don't, I think, not a chance to move your integrity. So for me, it's a great no. Don't get into this stuff. That's what I will say. There's a lot of money in the space. Not a problem. Just build your muscle to how to get it ethically, and build a credible ethical organization which is true to yourself and true to your all stakeholders, even the kids or whosoever you're working for.
Thank you for that question, Adil. I think there's a quick question around how do founders feel about paying themselves from the funds raised? What is the discomfort and what is the donor's perspective from this? Anything to add?
I think to keep it very specific, it also depends on what kind of funding you're going for with this question. From my personal experience, when you're working with HNIs or people you have a personal intimate relation with, they often want you to add founder salary, etc. there. So even if you skip it, they will nudge you to add it there because they know you personally. Whenever we go for institutional grants like CSR, approaching a company, what I found is they are more interested in capex form of investment or investment which builds capacity long term than paying salaries. So we try to moderate our budget accordingly. हम किससे बात कर रहे हैं? So discomfort would be there, but also I think if you approach it with the right kind of funding type, then the discomfort goes away, and then you can strategize कि किससे क्या पैसा लेना exactly and what they find comfortable funding. But bottom line, if you have this honest conversation with them, that this part will go to me as a funder, as a founder, that is really healthy to do it initially itself and then understand what they want to fund, etc. So that's my overall inclination around funding ourselves.
Yeah, I think I want to just add like 2 points here, that if you're explicit, if you're transparent, and if you're benchmarking against X number of years of experience, my previous job was this, people in this segment or sector are currently receiving Y, and hence you're able to justify that. I think that I rarely come across donors who have a problem with that. What I would be mindful of is trying to also assess what percentage of the total budget is the salary. So when you're starting out as a young organization, you're of course, a large part of it will probably go towards paying salaries of staff members, and you would be included in that. But you want to also always ensure that your programmatic expenses, which is non-salaries, are also at par, if not more, in the first year or two, so that you're able to show that the money that the donor is giving is going towards direct impact. And finally, if you're able to sort of narrate that this is a means to be able to ensure that this is only going to go down, the percentage is going to go down because the total budget will go up, the impact numbers will go up, and this is a means to be able to get there. I've rarely seen donors objecting that. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Okay. I think this would be our last question, unless more questions pour in. How would you approach funders who offer to co-create a budget uh, while also ensuring that your program doesn't lose its integrity?
Go for it, guys.
Uh, Ananya, would you mind sort of sharing more? What does co-creation mean in your context, and what kind of integrity question did it raise for you?
Yeah, hi. So we run a theater arts program for the low income school, and when we have sent this proposal, they says that they have a similar program related to emotional well-being in their centers, and our budget is little bit higher than their program, so it will be difficult to match these budget because they are saying that the similar program, though it is not similar, but it the platform, or you can say the ground is same, that they are also working on SCL and we are also working on LCL, but the approach is very different. So so when approach is very different, the treatment is very different, the budget is also, the costing of the budget also goes high. So they want, sometimes shall we co-create this budget, but I also get little bit discomfort whether the program integrity, the costing, the essence of the program should not dissolve with this co-creation.
Got it. Thank you.
Did I
Thanks.
meet? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it's very
This,
clear. Thank you so much for sharing. I think Chahat and Harsh can also add value. What I've experienced in my case, because I have been in a situation where I have to revisit my budget or quote unquote co-create it. What has been comfortable for me is being honest. Ki this is my budget. Like if these are the points. If you can't fund the entire thing because it's too expensive, fund some part of it. For example, some people would come to me and say, okay, we can't pay for every student getting a laptop because that is too expensive for us, but we'll pay your program cost, we'll pay your salaries, etc. So I think
yeah,
approaching in a way that, okay, don't pay the entire thing, pay a part of it, and then have the confidence the other part you'll get from somewhere else. That's
yeah,
been a much more healthier way than co-creating the entire budget for me. Because co-creating the
yeah.
entire budget, then it infiltrates the program itself. So it's more been
Mhm.
that then you take care of only of the part where you can take care of. But Harsh and Chat can add more value. There's an alternate
Right.
approach.
Yeah, thank you.
I think you have covered it. I just feel that for such kind of thing, I mean, listen with an open mindset, but take the charge. You are the driver of the program. You know the entire what kind of integrity and what kind of program that you want to deliver. If it's making sense at a quality level, then go for it. I think just take the charge of being in the driver's seat for your program.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Harsh.
Awesome, thank you so much. I know we have another question about the founder's salary, but just want to pause and ask if anyone has a question, a different theme that hasn't been addressed, and you want to just bring it up, and we can create space for that. You can feel free to unmute yourself as well. Okay, Adil is asking, when we're speaking to corporate fellows, shall we try to talk about value we create, or it's fine to talk about the project or program?
Yeah, I can get us started on this. Thanks, Adil, for asking this question. I think, see, one thing, unlike in grants or unlike with HNIs, where it's more open-ended, corporates have a particular mandate, right? And you either fit that mandate or you don't fit that mandate. Of course, there's wiggle room depending on who's the decision maker and how aligned they feel you are fitting into that. But in most cases, you'd be able to tell whether you fit that mandate or not. Second thing that I would look at when you're looking at a corporate partner is who are they currently supporting and what kind of support are they offering? How aligned do you feel you are there in that ecosystem? Because a lot of times say that a corporate partner has X crores dedicated for skilling, and then you'll see a lot of similar organizations in skilling working in a particular geography and sort of doing similar work or allied work either a forward or a backward integration of each other. So I think that that amount of research one must do. Um, but then I think I wouldn't shy away from speaking similar language, right? Like while I feel very allied that I would only do my program or I would keep the essence of my program a certain way, but if the donor has been supporting a certain kind of organization and you feel you can speak a similar language to convince them, I wouldn't shy away from letting them know that you are able to approach it in a similar way without changing anything about your program. If you're able to speak that language, it's helpful. And I wouldn't change a thing about it when pitching. Like I wouldn't change my program when pitching. But I would change the language and the narrative to be able to get a larger audience and approach them. But Harihar and Harsh, please jump in.
Sorry. So I think very aligned with what Chahat was saying. I just had one more point about what could value mean for the corporate fellow. I feel like a lot has been a shift in how CSR is looked at, and a lot of it is around corporate volunteering and how their employees can be engaged. So that kind of flexibility is really important because I feel we often miss that out, but they also are the humans there at the end of the day. So it would be great to always think about how you can engage their employees. I think that's a very healthy thing to construct together. So I would nudge you to think about that actively, but other things like aligned with what Chahat was saying.
Okay, I know there is one more question there, but we are coming towards the very end, so I can see if there's a quick answer to this. In a volunteer run org, how can we keep the programmatic costs at par with salaries? In education nonprofits, what would programmatic expenses include? Chahat, if you want to quickly shed light on this if anything's coming up for you.
Yeah, top of mind program expense, broadly speaking, of course, it would vary from org to org. Anything that is contributing to the learning of a child is probably program expense. But it would vary from org to org. I, of course, know very little about what Nimisha is doing and would love to know in more detail at a separate time. But for now, expense that is contributing to the learning of a child would be program expense. Um, I think that if you're able to justify that the volunteers or salaries of volunteers are contributing towards the learning of children, those could very well be program expenses in your case. So I wouldn't worry so much about keeping it at par. I just mentioned that as a good practice if you're able to balance that. As long as you're able to justify that the costs of running the organization are helping you improve and sort of serve the purpose that you started the org with, I shouldn't I wouldn't be worried in the first year or two about balancing or getting that right. If you're able to naturally achieve that, then great. But as long as you're doing the work that you started off to do and whatever is a means to able to achieve that, I think it's justified.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we are on time. Harihar, Harsh, Chahat, thank you so much for this very sharp conversation. I think it moved really fast. We covered a lot of really technical things, but also the human parts of fundraising, right? What does it mean to create relationships and dynamics that can be there with you in the longer run? Um, Cannot thank you enough for taking out the time and doing this for us. And thank you everyone else for staying till the very end and engaging so enthusiastically. Really appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see you back on our forums sometime soon. Again, our applications for the incubation are now open. If you visit the Circle website, you'll be able to access that. And do reach out if you want to talk more about the program. And have a great rest of the evening. Thank you so much.